Dear men, the beggar in the mirror. There is an image that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. A man on a street corner, hand extended, asking strangers for something they didn't offer and don't want to give. Most people walk past without eye contact. Some shake their head, some say no without breaking stride. A few stop, give something small and move on quickly. Not out of genuine connection, but out of pity or guilt or the desire to end an uncomfortable interaction. Now change the setting. A man in a bar, a mall, a coffee shop, approaching a woman he doesn't know, asking for her number. She didn't offer it. She didn't signal interest. She was going about her day. Most women deflect without eye contact. Some shake their head. Some say no without breaking stride. A few give a fake number, not out of genuine interest, but out of pity or social anxiety or the desire to end an uncomfortable interaction. The parallel is not flattering. It is not meant to be. It is meant to be honest, what cold approach actually is. Let's describe the mechanics without the self-help framing that the pickup artist industry has wrapped around them for 30 years. Cold approach is the act of initiating romantic or sexual pursuit with a stranger who has given no signal of interest, in a context that is not designated for that purpose, without any social introduction or shared context that might make the interaction natural. In plain terms, you are asking something from someone who didn't indicate they had anything to give you, in a situation where they cannot easily leave without social awkwardness, leveraging the implicit social pressure that makes outright rejection uncomfortable for most people. This is not pursuit. Pursuit happens when there is something to pursue, a signal, a glance, a smile, a conversation that has already begun. Cold approach is not pursuit. It is solicitation. And solicitation, by definition, puts the solicitor in the position of the beggar, not in terms of moral worth, not in terms of human dignity, but in terms of the structural dynamic of the interaction. One person wants something, the other person did not offer it. The transaction is initiated by the one who wants toward the one who has.
Why men don't see the mirror. The reason most men resist this parallel is not stupidity. It is the narrative they have been sold. The pickup artist industry and the broader self-improvement complex that surrounds it has built a multi-billion-dollar business on convincing men that cold approach is an act of boldness, that approaching strangers is a display of confidence and masculine courage, that the man who walks up to a woman and asks for her number is a hunter, not a petitioner. That rejection is simply data, feedback, part of the process, and that enough rejections, accumulated with sufficient indifference, will eventually produce results. This narrative serves the industry perfectly. It turns a fundamentally uncomfortable and statistically futile activity into a virtue, and then sells courses, books, boot camps, and coaching to men who want to do the virtuous thing more effectively. But strip the narrative away, and what remains is a man repeatedly asking strangers for something they didn't offer, being told no the vast majority of the time, and being encouraged to continue anyway because persistence is masculine, and the next one might say yes. The beggar on the corner has also been told that persistence is the key. That if he asks enough people, someone will give. That rejection is just data. The structural similarity is not coincidental. The approval architecture here is the deeper problem, the one beneath the mechanics. Cold approach, as typically practiced, is an approval-seeking behavior in its purest form. The man who approaches does not know this woman. He cannot know whether they are compatible, whether she is interesting, whether she is kind or cruel or somewhere in between. He knows at most that she is physically attractive to him. What he is actually seeking is not connection with this specific woman. He is seeking validation from a stranger, the confirmation that he is desirable, that he is worth approaching, that the world will receive him positively. This is the same thing the beggar seeks, not just money, but acknowledgement. The spare change is almost secondary. What matters is that someone stopped, saw him, and responded as if he were worth responding to. When you build your sense of self-worth on the approval of strangers who have no reason to give it, you have constructed a foundation that will fail constantly and collapse eventually. And the failure is not random. It is systematic, because the people you are seeking approval from are precisely the people least equipped to give it meaningfully. A stranger cannot validate you. They don't know you. Their yes or no reflects their mood, their day, their type, their relationship status, their level of social anxiety, almost nothing about your actual worth as a person. What this does to men. The pickup artist community has a term for the emotional state of a man who has been doing cold approach for months or years: abundance mentality. The idea is that if you approach enough women, you develop the psychological security of knowing that there are always more. And this security makes you less needy, more attractive, better at the whole enterprise. What actually happens to most men who cold approach extensively is the opposite of abundance mentality. It is the gradual internalization of a specific and corrosive message: I am someone who has to ask strangers for basic human interest. Repeated rejection does not build resilience, it builds a schema, a model of the world in which you are the initiator and the world is the reluctant responder, in which you are always reaching toward people who are moving away. This schema is not abundance. It is the psychology of the petitioner, and it leaks into every other area of a man's life if allowed to take root deeply enough.
What the beggar knows that the cold approacher doesn't hear is the irony that the parallel reveals. The beggar, in most cases, knows exactly what he is doing. He is asking for something he needs from people who didn't offer it. He has no illusions about the dynamic. He is not telling himself a story about boldness or abundance or the courage of pursuit. He is doing what his circumstances require, with full awareness of what it is. The man who cold approaches often does not have this clarity. He has been given a story that makes the solicitation feel like something else. Like hunting, like confidence, like masculine virtue. The story protects him from seeing the dynamic clearly. But the woman on the receiving end sees it clearly. She sees a stranger who wants something from her that she didn't offer. She sees the structural position she is in, the one being solicited, the one whose response determines whether the interaction ends comfortably or awkwardly. She sees often the desperation beneath the rehearsed confidence, and she responds to what she sees, not to the story the man is telling himself. This is why cold approach has such poor results even when executed technically well. The woman is responding to the architecture of the interaction, not to the opener, not to the body language, not to the confidence level. She is responding to the fact that a stranger has placed her in the position of gatekeeper to his self-esteem, and she didn't agree to be there. What works instead? The alternative to cold approach is not passivity. It is not giving up. It is not accepting loneliness as fate. It is building a life in which genuine connection becomes structurally possible, rather than attempting to extract connection from strangers through sheer persistence. This means building genuine interests and pursuing them in communities of people who share them. It means showing up consistently in contexts where relationships form naturally over time, through repeated exposure, shared experience, and gradual mutual revelation. It means investing in the social infrastructure that makes you someone worth knowing, rather than optimizing the first 30 seconds of an interaction with a stranger. It means, in short, becoming someone who is sought rather than someone who seeks, not through manipulation or scarcity games, but through the genuine development of a life interesting enough that others want to be part of it. The beggar does not become less of a beggar by perfecting his pitch. He becomes less of a beggar by changing his circumstances. The honest conclusion. When you see a beggar on the street, the compassionate response is not contempt. It is recognition. This person is in circumstances that require them to ask strangers for what they need, and most strangers will say no, and they will ask again anyway. When a man cold approaches, relentlessly, systematically, treating rejection as data and persistence as virtue, the compassionate response, from those who care about him, is the same. Recognition, not contempt. Not mockery, recognition. This is a person whose circumstances, internal and external, have led him to seek validation from strangers as a primary strategy for connection. And most strangers will say no, and he has been told to ask again anyway. The mirror the beggar holds up is not an insult. It is an invitation to ask a different question. Not how do I approach better, but why am I approaching at all? And what would it take to build a life where I don't have to?